Well, hello everybody and welcome to our stat show, our first stat show. So the idea of this stat show is obviously we will be going through statistics. This is powered by ShotScope, so we're going to be using our ShotScope system to give you some numbers of what we're up to, either in tournament golf or vlogging golf, whatever it is that we're doing and we're able to give you some stats on, we're going to share it with you on this show. So if you are new to the channel and you like what you're seeing from these videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But Paul, tell me what we're doing today on this stat show.
Right, we're going to go through my round of golf we had at Trevose.
Okay, so this is tournament level?
This is a tournament, yeah.
Yes.
This was a Devon Alliance professional event.
Yeah.
And we played down at Trevose. The weather wasn't great. I'm going to chuck that out there straight away.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, some of the data we got from it.
Well, you say weather wasn't great. I mean, we started off okay, didn't we? And then as the day kind of moved on, the rain came in, probably just hitting us on about 10 or 11, maybe 9 for you. You were just behind us, weren't you?
I had about 7, 8 holes of rain, I think.
Did you? Yeah.
And also we had probably 20, 30 mile an hour winds at times. So
but it's winter golf.
Yeah.
We're on a links golf course, which is what you would expect to get some type of, at least a few holes in some weather, which obviously as the tides change and things like that, you're always going to get a turn in the weather. But Trevose Golf Club, fantastic golf club, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's brilliant. They really look after you down there as well, and they do look after the golf course, and it was in great condition when we played.
Yeah, it really was. And we have put on a bus tour down there, but you talk about weather, unfortunately our bus tour got cancelled down there, and that just shows what kind of can happen around links golf courses. Yeah. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be prepared for all types of weather when you're getting out onto a golf course, especially this time of year, especially on links courses. Definitely. Were you prepared? Were you prepared for the rain? Because you're pretty much on it all the time with that.
I always carry my umbrella and etc. etc. I wasn't expecting it. Yeah. It wasn't forecast, so it kind of hit me back a little bit. But I did have everything I needed to combat it. Yeah. Just not the golf.
So in this show, what we're going to be looking at, like Paul said, we're going to be looking at Paul's stats from his round of golf down there. In other shows, as we move on through the year, we're going to be looking at your stats as well. So if you're using ShotScope and you want to get your stats over to us, just in the little ticker bar you'll see just down here, you'll see an email address of which you can email us. We can have a little look and a chat with you about your stats, and then highlight maybe some of the key areas that maybe might be able to help you with your game. But normally when you look at stats from any game of golf, it can highlight some of the positives and negatives within the game.
Exactly. You don't want to get too negative with it. So you want to be picking out positives and finding what you're good at as well as what you're bad at, definitely.
Yeah. And I hear this all the time. People that play rounds of golf, you hear it in the bar after they've played. Even if they go out and shoot 67 and they're leading the competition or they're leading their division or whatever it is, they still focus on the negative point. Like they always say, oh, it was a 67, but it could have been better.
Yeah, always.
But actually, sometimes you need to focus on your positives as well, more so probably than maybe your negatives.
Definitely.
To give you the confidence moving forward. Yeah. Right, we're going to reposition ourselves, get the ShotScope app up on the screen so we can have a little look at Paul's round of golf at Trevose. So we're going to start off with an overview of the actual card. You've got it up there looking at the card itself. Couple of birdies, a double, and another 2 bogeys as well. Oh no, there's another one further on.
Yeah, so it started really nicely, 2 under par through 9 holes. Yeah. And on track for a good score.
But ultimately on that day, obviously you can see their weather. Yeah. Weather's kicked in later on, and I would say certainly last 6, 7 holes. Yeah. You can see, and I obviously I played in this as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get my stats on this, but. I fell apart at the end. Yeah. Because it was just all getting too wet. The wind had picked up and it was getting harder and harder. But good solid start though, Paul.
It was a good start, going along nicely. And then back 9, it did start raining. And the last 4 holes, I was kind of holding it together. And then the last 4 holes, it just I hit a couple of bad shots and it really cost me.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So shot 4 over on the back 9 and ended up shooting 74, 2 over par. Yes. If we go and look into the performance and look into the actual stats of the day, we start off with the scoring stats. So as you can see here, it's given a breakdown of what birdies, eagles, etc. So 3 birdies, 3 bogeys, a double,
and a double,
and also 11 pars. So Interesting, it now picks up on the average score per type of hole. So par 3, my average score was 3.5. Par 4 was 4.2. Par 5 was 4.5. So
I got to say, I'm going to jump in because, like, for me, I would say that the par 3s at Trevose are tricky, especially when the wind gets up. That doesn't surprise me to see somebody of Paul's ability and caliber shooting over par 4 for par 3s.
And I think if you look at stats on tour or whatever, par 3s always generally come out the hardest, and par 5s come out the easiest. So there's nothing kind of new we're seeing there. That's kind of as it should be. If we go into the stroke gained, this is quite interesting now, because this is kind of why I'm using this system. It links strokes gained. You can have loads of different data on shots and putts hold and whatnot, but it's important to link it to something, and the strokes gained is where we really see the benefits of using the system. If you look through here, tee shots, I was losing, so what you need to notice is minuses, obviously is good in golf, but in strokes gained, that's bad. So
that's a negative.
So I'm losing 1.18 of a shot on my tee shots. That's what it's cost me on the round of golf. My approaches was minus 1.28, so that's not good either. Short game was good, so I've gained 1.3 shots on the field with my short game.
So, I mean, just looking at this here straight away is you're struggling off the tee, struggling getting it to the green, and then the picture I'm kind of trying to build up in my mind here is that you're struggling a little bit off the tee, you're struggling with your approach games because your tee shot's not in the great position, and then you're just trying to save your round as you're kind of bopping along.
I am, and I think you can see here that the putting is the biggest problem, and you can see there it's cost me 3 shots on a tour player, so obviously all these numbers are linked to a tour player. When you add all these up, I've lost basically 4.08 of shots to a tour pro. So they're estimating that a tour pro would go around there, the average tour pro would go around Trevose that day on -2. So I've shot 2 over par, so I've lost 4 shots out to an average tour pro.
And to be fair, I mean, obviously Paul is putting this into a tour player's stat, so he's getting information based on a tour player. You would do this based on your own field, your own handicap range. But I would say for you, Trevose, if I sum Trevose, if someone said to me, what's Paul going to shoot around Trevose, I would say on an average, Paul will shoot between probably 1 and 2 under par.
Yeah, you'd like to be, depending on the weather, you'd like to be under par around Trevose, really.
It's kind of one of those, a bit of room off the tee. There's a couple of par 4s that you can get close to, but there's also the par 5s you can, I think par 5s are where you can really sort of put the numbers together.
Absolutely. So if we then dive a bit more in depth into the numbers then, so we can now bring it down to the different categories. So if we start off with putting, which is obviously the one where it cost me the most in the round, so that's kind of the first thing you're probably going to look to, is, what went wrong with the putting. So if we have a look at the overview, the number that jumps out at me straight away is 67% of putts short. So that's that's 67% of putts that are definitely not going in if you leave them short.
Correct.
So that's something that I need to work on with pace. Maybe the pace wasn't quite right that day, and I did feel like I left a few short. So I was struggling to get the pace of the green. So that's kind of been highlighted there.
Do you spend a lot of time preparing before you go out and play? Do you go on the putting green and make sure you're focusing on that? I mean, is it something you consciously go and focus on, pace putting, before you go and tee off?
Yeah, I think certainly the golf I'm playing is I'm jumping around from golf course to golf course. So, the greens are always different.
Changing
changing all the time. So you need to spend as much time as you can when you're warming up to get the pace of that green. So I think at Trevose, it just wasn't quite there for me, and I do struggle if you have a big jump from maybe a slow green to a quick green. It's a massive jump from day to day. That is tough to get a hold of. So I think maybe looking back at that, could maybe look at how I'm preparing with my pace of putting on the putting green first thing. That maybe needs to be looked at. And
there's drills you can do for that. There's loads of drills out there that you can do for pace putting before you go and tee off.
I think maybe the biggest thing is just maybe to allocate more time to it. Just make sure you've got the right pace.
When it comes to putting and confidence, so I'm a confidence putter really. If I get going, I can start holding some putts. But are you one of those players? Sorry about that. Are you one of those players that if you start, if you whack a putt a little bit long on the first putt on the first green or something like that, do you feel that possibly that knocks your confidence a little bit? And
I think it
or
can
is it
do,
something that you try and just wipe out each hole to hole?
It comes down to a mental approach then, doesn't it? And I think I wouldn't ever read too much into one thing that happens, so one putt, but if you've done it 2, 3, 4 times, then obviously then it's going to knock your confidence and you're going to need to adjust because you've not got the right pace for that day. And
it is important, isn't it, to adjust on the golf course when you're out there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Deal with the situation that's in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if we go then look a little bit further, so if we go into the strokes gain part of the stats of the putting, you can see that if we look at the putting per distance, this is quite an interesting thing, and this is something I've never had access to before, as in the data. And this is saying that basically the closer I was getting to the hole, the worse my putting was getting by the looks of this. As you can see that it was costing me under 10 feet, it was costing me just over 2 shots. And then when I was getting further away from the hole, I was actually gaining on the field, or as a tour pro would, a tour pro field, I'm gaining just under a quarter of a shot. So that's telling me I need to have a look at my short putting from inside 10 foot. That's jumping out at me straight away. And
how deep would you go into that? Because you've got to think about where you've positioned yourself within the hole, haven't you?
Yeah.
So if you've got a 10-foot putt, all those 10-foot putts that you're leaving short, are you leaving yourself lots of uphill putts? Is your game varying from downhill to uphill, so you're not getting the pace quite right? Do you know what I mean? How deep do you go into that?
Well, you can go as deep as you want, really. But I mean, this does tell you where you're missing. So it does tell if it's short, it's right, or something. So if you are missing from 10 foot, you can go in and access that data and find out where your under 10 foot putts are missing. So you can find patterns. You can find things there that may help you going forward.
And I love that because it stops you stabbing in the dark with pace putting. Because instantly, when I think about pace putting, I think going to standing 30, 40 feet away from the hole and trying to get it dead weight all the time to that hole. Where actually that's not the area that you needed to go and focus on.
No.
Straight away, you can see there, it's 10 foot and in. 10 foot and in is where your focus needs to be. You're losing 2 shots to the field there. That's the area. With a few extra putts, maybe 15, 20 feet away. But the rest of the long putting, you don't even need to touch it.
Fine, that's something I don't need to be working on according to this, definitely. Okay, so if we go then on to short game, which is the bit that I was excelling at that day, so I was gaining on the field. So if we look at this, the bit that jumped out at me here was, which is very good on the strokes gained, is it gives you your results based on the lie type that you had. So it breaks it down into fairway, rough, and bunkers.
Okay.
So this was telling me that I was doing really well off of the fairway lie. It was also telling me I was doing okay out of the rough, but my bunker play was holding me back that day. I think I had 2 bunker shots, but as you can see, I've almost lost a shot on the field with my performance in the bunkers.
Yeah.
Now, the bit that I kind of managed to then dissect was actually a lot of the fairway lies I was putting. So obviously, if you're just off the green, you'll be putting. So I didn't feel like that day my putting stats were that bad. It didn't feel like I putted horrendous, but obviously the stats showed that I did. Yeah. But I think maybe where I was playing from the fairway putting.
Well, you're coming out of 2 different grass types.
Well, yeah.
Length of grass, a different thing.
Absolutely. But I think that kind of maybe skewed the data a little bit.
Okay.
In that, because actually my putting from from the fringes, which were the longer putts, were actually not so bad. So I think, again, that's sort of emphasising that the longer putts was good that day and maybe the shorter putts wasn't. Interesting,
though, your bunker play, though.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Jordan, who edits these videos, will tell you that Paul's bunker play is what he calls as world class. Now, you're losing a shot to the field on your bunker play. Now, again, we don't play a great deal of links golf.
No.
Is it because you've maybe moved into links, pot bunkers, different type of sand? Is that possibly something that jumps around? You talked about different greens, but obviously you've got different fairway shots and tee shots, very similar wherever you kind of go. But when you move into bunker play, different sands, different types of bunkers, is that?
I mean, that sand is definitely different, and it's something I don't play enough of to get probably good at. You know, the sand is nice, but it does perform slightly different than a parkland course, which I'm playing most of my golf on. So that's definitely something something I need to go and maybe spend a bit more time in my warm-up in a bunker, getting used to the link sand a little bit better. That may help, definitely. If we go then on to the approach play. Now, this is basically your iron shots going into the green. Okay. And this was quite important to look at. So anything beyond the pitch, basically? Yeah, is that what we're saying? Yeah, it is, yeah. Okay. So if we look at the overview straight away, you can see that 32% of my shots were short. Nothing long, and a few small percentages left and right, but they're almost pretty equal. So, I mean, from that, you've got to be saying straight away, you know, is it club selection or is it strike? Because, you know, you can choose the right club, but if you don't get the strike on it, it's going to come up short. Ball speed drops. Or was I striking it well? And I think it was more of a strike issue. I'm normally pretty good with my distance control and stuff. So normally very good with that. So I'm thinking, you know, straight away that maybe my strike is out that day, and that's cost me coming up a bit short. So, you know, that's something there you can look into. I'll tell you what's interesting with this as well, and I'm looking at like not that Paul necessarily needs to go and look at his golf clubs as such, but that people could take from this as, you know, people always ask me, are these golf clubs suited for my game? Well, you've got a potential answer in these here, haven't you? Because if you end up going, coming up slightly short, you might be in a set of clubs that are maybe less forgiving, and maybe your strike isn't quite as good, and therefore you're going to lose some ball speed, and therefore you might want to then look at irons that might help you with that. So keep maintaining decent ball speed off-centered strike. So for me to just tell you, yes, these are right or these aren't right for you, actually the data can tell you it as well. Not that it would affect you. Are you saying I need game improvement irons? To be fair, the set of irons you used when you won the 2015 PGA Champs were a game improvement set of irons. They were built for the 28 handicapper, that's for sure. Well, and you're categorising a 28 handicapper, but it's built for people that miss-hit shots a lot of the time. They're definitely forgiving. Yeah, forgiving iron, yeah. You know, it's something it's something that maybe is jumping out from the stats and telling you to go down that road. Well, it's something that I think you need to keep an eye on as we go forward. Get rid of those blades. Okay, so so if we then look in a little bit further into the approaches by distance, which is in the strokes gained category here as well. Yeah. Really interesting, and it's something I kind of know that I'm generally pretty good. 50 to 100 yards. I'm good. Doing better on the average Tour Pro. Yeah. When you get further away from the hole, so it's getting worse. So I think also that jumps out from 100 to 150 yards is where I'm really losing numbers. So that's kind of like your middle irons. Yeah. And a lot of those 150 yard shots were probably with 5-6 irons because it was windy at times. So I think that's an area I've got to kind of look at. But obviously encouraging, and like we said, you've got to take the positives with this as well as the negatives, that, you know, inside 100 yards, my numbers are really good. So the things that you've been working on are good? Yeah, and it's just something I've always been good at, that sort of 50 to 100 yard zone. I can you know, control the wedge distances quite well. So I think that's kind of something that's showing us there as well. Tee shots. So when you go and look at the overview of this, we can see straight away that there was certainly more shots missing left than there were right. I mean, it's not a huge amount more, but there's enough there that you know, that's maybe something I need to look at. And that is my poor shot at the moment. And it does change from time to time, but at the moment, my bad shots are sort of turning over too much and missing on the left side. So that's something that's been highlighted there as well. Also, it gives you, this is quite a good one as well, which is something you don't necessarily look at. But if we look here with my driver, I was hitting 50% of the fairways. Okay, I used my 3-wood twice, as you can see here. And you've hit it. I hit it 100% of the fairways. Yeah. So you can see there my 3-wood was outperforming my driver on that day, certainly for accuracy. So that's something, you know, something you can take from that as well from there. If we go back onto the strokes gained, if we look at the tee shot accuracy, you can see that my misses left were costing me. This is where it kind of works out, if you've missed it left, how much is that costing you on the field. So my missing it left off the tee was costing me 0.7 of a shot, 0.75 of a shot that day.
Yeah.
Missing it right was 0.43 of a shot that day. Hitting the fairway, I was breaking even. So,
okay.
You know, that was saying that, you know, if I'm hitting the fairway, I'm in good position. And you would expect misses left and right to be costing you. But as you can see here, it's saying that it's more costly if I'm going left than I'm going right. Something there you can obviously take from as well. So it's very good. It does give you a really good overview, and if you want an overview, and also it allows you to go as much depth as you want into all these stats.
Well, I think that's quite fascinating looking at that. Obviously, as you know, over the years, I have not been a huge stat man. It's something that I have never really accepted, is probably the word. Like, Paul was always hugely into practicing. I tried it for a while and struggled with it, as in to make that progress in my game, which I think if we probably look back over time, it's probably held me back in certain ways. But going into something like this, which there's no effort, really, is it? No. You know, you're just going out, it's storing it onto your phone, so you don't have to do anything on the golf course. It's just, it stores up to 50 rounds on your actual watch. So just downloading that information, you know, looking at it in detail like we've done there, I just think it's really, from a coaching now point of view, looking at it, I think there's so much you can take away from it.
I think so. I think if you're, you know, if I had students coming through the door, this has got to be the starting point of a lesson, because you can't coach somebody, because you know, you can't physically go out and play with every student all the time and watch exactly what they're doing. But this is a way of kind of shortcutting that process, and you can actually have eyes on what they're doing by looking at what their stats are doing. So if they're keeping good stats that you can then access and look through, you can certainly pick up patterns. I mean, that's just based on one round.
Yes.
And we've already picked up patterns.
Yeah.
I think if you put that in through a whole year's worth of, you know, stats, you're going to certainly develop some very consistent patterns of what's going right and what's going wrong. Yeah.
And even just looking at the overview of it, you know, looking at the initial bits where we looked at, it's when you go a little bit deeper that you start to pick up those patterns, and then gives you what I think, like initially I thought, right, there's areas here that you need to work on. But actually, if you look at it, you can dive in, especially when it came to the putting. And I know that putting has been an area of your game that you've questioned over time, certainly compared to certainly your long game, because your long game has always been pretty good, other than when you're chasing distance. But I think there, where you don't then have to go and focus on your whole putting game, you can go and dedicate yourself to certain areas on the putting green that are only going to help you improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps you mentally as well, because it can help you give confidence from knowing that you are doing something right. Yeah. And then you don't have to work on that so much, and it gives you a true reflection. You know, I've played with people who say, oh, you're a great putter, or you're a great bunker player, or you're this or that, but in your head you're seeing it differently. Yeah. And this is actually putting numbers to your performance rather than people's opinions, if that makes sense. So it's certainly something that kind of cuts to the chase and gives you a true reflection of what's going on.
And like we said right at the beginning, you know, confidence in a golfer is really, really important. I just take myself back in putting. You know, I didn't think I was that good I didn't think I was a great putter. I thought I was a streaky putter. I would be a bit all over the place. But going through over the years now of playing golf on camera and actually watching myself hit putts and hole a lot of putts, big putts a lot of the time, it gives me the confidence. So when I step over a putt now, I am so much more confident than I used to be, not knowing that. And that's only from me watching myself on camera. This is almost being able to watch yourself on camera in a slightly different way, isn't it?
So you know now what I've had to deal with growing up.
Over the years, yeah.
Watching you hole all those putts.
And I have apologised a number of times for that.
Yeah. I haven't had one in writing yet.
No, don't do writing. We don't do emails. But I think that's fantastic. And I think that moving on in this series, we need to get more detail on not just, obviously, your game, not just my game, but your game. We want to know if you're using ShotScope, like I said before, on the ticker bar. If you want to get involved with this, we're looking for different types of handicap golfers. So we're looking to just try and focus on lots of different handicap golfers throughout the year. We're not just going to focus on the tour player. We're not going to focus on the scratch golfer. We want to cover all areas of the game. Yep. And I think getting those types of stats are only going to help players with their game.
100%.
Well, if you like what you're seeing from this series, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you give this series a thumbs up. We'd like to hear, obviously, what you have to say in the comments as well about pool stats, about this show. And I think that's it, isn't it? We're going to see everyone again very soon. We'll probably see them tomorrow evening.
Let's do it.
See you tomorrow night.